Hi guys, so now that you've watched Asians in the Library as well as the response video to that video, we're going to do a brief rhetorical comparison where we recap and debrief some of the things that you just saw. So starting with Wallace's argument, okay? Let's just start with the good, because we always have to start with the good, even if we're really struggling to find any good. If you try really hard to see past the overt racism that is in the video, that will allow you to objectively see the argument and recognize the different parts of the argument. There are some good things about this argument, although they're not very easy to detect. But let's start with them anyway, because that's how it's best to organize any kind of analysis or critique. So what's good about this argument? Well, Wallace uses some exemplification when she's doing her rant, which means she provides examples that illustrate her experience sometimes. And if you were to write a paper on this, you would want to quote an example of her giving exemplification so that you could show the reader what you were talking about. Exemplification is considered a rhetorical technique that is a benefit because it helps the reader to better understand what you're saying and makes them have the perspective of you going through the experience that you went through. Another thing she does well is she chose the correct genre for a wide audience. Now, we don't really know who her intended audience was because she never specifically mentioned them, but if they were college students, she did choose correctly. And of course, the video did reach a wide audience, so the genre was effective in that regard. The bad. So this is where it's easy to talk about her video because so much of it was so bad. When it comes to ethos, we'll start there, or credibility. She just has none. She really buries herself at the very beginning of the argument by stating that she has no politically correct sensibility at all, and she's not known for being politically correct. So right there at the very start, we know we can't trust her. She lacks credibility also in the visual way that she presents herself. Because it is a video, the way that she presents herself matters because it helps to shape the way that her message is received, because it helps to create a picture of who she is for her reader or her viewer. And in that regard, she does not dress very professionally, and so she has, that's another negative towards her credibility. She says like a lot, which makes her seem like a lot less professional and serious. And her audience and purpose are never made clear, which results in her video coming across more like a rant rather than a valid argument with a solid point. Another thing is that she shows no empathy, and she gets no empathy back. She offers no solution to the issue that she's complaining about, which is good practice for someone who is discussing a problem. It's not required that you propose a solution, but because her video is so brief, you would think that she would spend a little bit more time thinking about a possible option for a solution at least, and mention it, even if briefly. Her argument lacks solid examples of ethos, pathos, and logos, which we've been talking about as some of the most important, or definitely the cornerstones of good argumentation and good rhetoric. The response video, on the other hand, let's take a look here. So again, we'll start with the good, because that's the practice for any kind of analysis. You always want to start with what was good about it, okay, or how it achieved positive results for whatever it is you're assessing. In this video, the author establishes credibility right away. She lets us know she is a UCLA alumni, and so she has some personal connection to this issue, and she's seen some of it up front, up close and personal. She clearly addresses her target audience right away, so we know who she's talking to. She's talking to the UCLA community. She clearly organizes her points. It's easy to follow her argument. She responds to the major aspects of Wallace's argument and hits them point by point. And she never uses any kind of negative language or derogatory word choice to describe Wallace, even though she's clearly not very happy about the video that she posted. She provides plenty of examples to thoughtfully counter and explain Wallace's points and why they were not valid. She keeps an even tone throughout her argument. So because it is a visual and a recording of audio, we can hear that she is keeping her cool, and that adds to her credibility. And lastly, she does end with a proposition or a proposal for how to fix this problem. As far as what's bad about this response video, it's hard to find any flaws really with the argument. So ultimately, the conclusion here is that the author has succeeded at communicating her message and persuading the audience to consider her side. Her argument is ultimately much more convincing. To conclude, you would compare them both and you could state the following. This is an example of a conclusion if you were writing a rhetorical analysis in which you compared both arguments. Wallace clearly lacks credibility, empathy, facts, and good judgment, which are just about all of the necessary attributes of an effective argument. Behan, on the other hand, presents herself as a knowledgeable, trustworthy, and thoughtful source. She is organized in her presentation, and she's patient with her claims, and she offers logical and interesting evidence to back them up. She succeeds at persuading her audience of all the objective reasons why Wallace was wrong by effectively employing rhetorical devices such as ethos, pathos, and logos, and by maintaining a trustworthy tone and style throughout her piece.